Forgot.
You just
You
yelled
just
at
yelled his
me.
name.
I know. What's
Rick
Rick
Siemens.
Siemens, Leslie Nesson, Mark Christensen, Steve
That's all
Battis,
right.
Paul
You got names all
Folsom,
the
Kurt
time.
Fertig,
That's all right. I don't.
Jenny.
Jenny. We're pushing it tonight. We appreciate you being here this evening. And we have opening ceremony. Could I ask to pray?
Sean.
Sean is going to pray. Good. After which, Steve Battis is going to lead us in the pledge. Sean.
Our dear Heavenly Father, we're thankful to be here tonight as a city council and as citizens of this great city. And we pray this evening as we discuss matters pertaining to the health, safety, and welfare of the citizens. We pray that information here might be understood and that good dialogue might occur. And we pray that outcomes might be made that are best for the residents and citizens of the city. And we're thankful for those who serve in the community and serve our country. And we're grateful for the sacrifices and the freedoms that we enjoy here. And we say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have library guests. We're glad to have you with us tonight. Oh, Shari. Shari's here too. Okay. Conflict of interest. Do we have any conflict of interest with anything that we'll be dealing with tonight? If not, we have an agenda. Any questions on the agenda?
I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion this evening that we approve the agenda as outlined.
Motion made by Connie,
Second.
second by Lyle Vance. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes of February 18th, 2020. Any questions on the minutes?
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes of February 18th.
I'll second it.
Motion made by Lyle Vance, second by Connie. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Public comment. It's time for the public to address the council. Is your opportunity? Okay. Public comment is closed. Employee Service Award for Lisa Auger. How many years? 30 years Lisa has been serving us in Tremont City. That is awesome. So please come up. Here's a little award for you. Oh, excuse me.
Wrong name.
There you go. And thank you very much for your service to Tremont City.
Hey, wait, you need to turn so we can
Oh,
think. And scoot
there we
this
go.
way.
Oh,
Yeah,
Scoot
go
this way.
go that way.
how's that? Is that good?
It was.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Can I ask a question? So, Lisa, would you tell me what you've been doing for Tremonton City for 30 years? You're way too young to be a full-time worker for 30 years, but
Close to retiring.
but what did you do for Tremonton City?
I'm a cook at the senior center, and we do the Meals on Wheels program, and people come in and,
Awesome.
yeah,
Thank
doing
you.
salads and made dishes for a long time.
Yes.
A lot of dishes.
Thank you.
Thank you. 30 years is a long, long time.
It is.
That's awesome. New council business, discussion and consideration of adopting ordinance number 20-20, 20-02. amending the Tremont City zoning for several parcels that's written down on our thing here. That totals approximately 30.5 acres, located at approximately 2650 west, 600 north, from residential district R110 to residential district R18. Sean, is this yours?
It is. Yeah, we talked about it at the last council meeting, you I'm sure recall, and it was tabled. And so I did try to provide some additional information, if you would. Can you scroll down? There was an individual member of the public, and they raised some good concerns. And I think the biggest one was just open space in general, and about lot size. And you might recall that the current zone is R110 and the proposed is R18. And so I think his name, don't remember, was it Bush?
Yes.
Mr. Bush. So he lives in, scroll down to the plat, I think that's the most helpful. I essentially included the adjoining subdivision to the south that would interface. And Mr. Bush's property, well,
Might just lower than that.
yeah, and we can scroll back up to that one. But you can see that there's a lot of 8,000 square feet or square foot lots there. And I mentioned to you about, the road, and essentially when you go to a larger, lot in the depth, I think he was essentially trying to keep the same lot size so it could fit in between the space that you see, there in a reasonable approach. And so having similar lot sizes essentially allows them to essentially, have those lots fit better within the current road configuration. So, I would say it really is compatible with surrounding property owners. And if you would scroll up to the next zoning map, I essentially highlighted, and you might need to blow it up, it's kind of hard to see, but I tried to circle essentially all the R18 zoning, and the R110 is kind of the yellow color adjoining it. And you can see, it is an acceptable transition in lot sizes that's been used elsewhere throughout the
So
city.
all those circled things are 1/8?
R18, and then, generally around those R18s, is different residential zones, but R110 is certainly, a big zoning district that adjoins the R18s. So, anyways, that's sort of my
That was
report.
great. That was great.
But again, I think his point of trying to, create open space, and as we talked about at the last meeting, we are focused on trying to essentially acquire property to do the regional storm drain basin and a regional park within on that same parcel of land. And I did drive by a developer, one of the big developers is Jay Stockings in there, and I actually have seen an improvement in that neighborhood, in my opinion, with the different housing products. I think there is sort of a incremental upward progression in the types of homes and even, the materials. So I think things are improving in that area. That's just my opinion.
And Brett, what was the opinion of the planning commission?
To pass it.
Pass it?
Yes. Yeah.
I'm the one that suggested we put it on the table. And then when Paul was walking out, he's gone, oh, there he is. He reminded me that Archibald Estates now, this really helps to see how many other subdivisions are R8s. So I think enough discussions happened on this thing. I want to make a motion that we adopt ordinance number 20-02.
Motion made by Lyle, seconded by Brett. A roll call.
Rick, aye.
Brett, aye. Lyle, aye.
Connie, I.
Okay, thank you.
I think it was good, though, for us to table it that night. I think it was a good thing, because we had a citizen that had questions, and maybe we weren't, we had some questions ourselves, so I don't think it hurt to wait that 2 weeks.
Thank you, Connie. Discussion and consideration of adopting resolution 20-09, approving a land acquisition agreement between Tremont City and Thomas Investments Limited Partnership for the city to acquire parcel number 05-08-0049, which is 0.11 acres of real property for the Canal Rail Trail located approximately at 300 west and 600 south. Sean, we all know this, don't we?
You know that one. I would say I did visit with the canal company today. We talked a little about the issue of the trails joining in close proximity to their canal. And I talked to Trevor. I think he's the manager, is his title. And he had communication and conversation with his board. And I think the simple answer is that they can see us coexisting in the same space. They claim an easement essentially on property that surrounds the canal. In some cases, they own it fee simple. Other cases, it's, in our case, it's Tremonton City who owns the property. And there's also some development that's occurring along their canal. And they did provide a letter, and I'll share it with you, but essentially what they want is essentially us to kind of coordinate with them on land use decisions so that they can make sure that their interest in maintaining the canal is preserved as development occurs. And as it relates to the trail, I think there's essentially started talking more about the details, but what we're trying to provide is access. What they need is access. I think that on the most practical level we talked about was fencing. Should there be fencing or not? How would that work? And they're of the opinion, and preliminarily, because these are all just preliminary conversations that we have. We need to, as we get further into it, get into the details. But they just want to make sure that they can continue to have access, and we just want to make sure that the improvements that we make in the corridor, are compatible and wouldn't be destroyed or degraded. I think that might be a little bit of a challenge, just making sure that they can keep the canal and do their services, but not lose the improvements that we put in there. So being smart ahead of time, making sure that the improvements we put in there are compatible, like fencing and trees, things like that. We also talked about specifically they could work on one side of the canal and leave the other side open for the trail access. In some cases, they mentioned actually having the trail there would help them, relieve them of some of the maintenance associated with keeping the weeds and vegetation down and things like that. So I think really my general conclusion from that conversation with Trevor is that we felt like we could work together and essentially provide services and that would benefit both entities and the services or the recipients of those services.
Any questions, council?
I'll make a motion that we approve this evening resolution number 20-09.
Motion made by Connie,
I'll second that.
seconded by Brett. Roll call again.
Rick, aye.
Brett, aye. Lyle Vance, aye.
Connie Archibald, aye.
Thank you. Discussion and consideration of adopting resolution 20-10, approving the Holmgreen Estates East Phase 6 subdivision development agreement. Sean, again?
This is just the standard development agreement, and if you would scroll down to the special conditions, I think that's the most important section for you to be aware of. Then you're probably going to see fee in lieu. Right there. So the dedication of water shares and fee in lieu payment for street light, and then the chip seal. Those are pretty typical conditions associated with any development.
Okay. Did you say the street lights?
So they pay essentially $1,500 for every street light that's
The
installed
developer does?
to the city, because essentially the city enters into a contract with Rocky Mountain Power, and so their payment essentially pays for the street light that is needed to service their development. And then they pay a chip seal amount. So we had a hard time essentially getting the chip seal money after it's been recorded and developed. And so the council essentially changed the requirement that they pay a fee in lieu that essentially provides the money that they would have been responsible to for the chip seal that that's done at a later date. And so those are all monies that we collect at the recordation of any subdivision. And then they dedicate the water associated with the subdivision.
Council, any questions?
There is a standard for how far apart or how many lights there are per street and all that all developers need to fall within that standard, correct?
It's not, we don't necessarily have a distance standard. It's more location, which is at street or at intersections that we have the street light. And then if it's a long block, then we'll put one mid-block. But typically it's limited to the intersections.
So what determines if it's a long street or not?
You know, we don't necessarily have like I said, there's no prescriptive standard where we count lots and say, oh, street light here. We look at the overall layout of the subdivision, and it's a conversation that we have with the developer through the DRC process. If you wanted to try to go to a more prescriptive standard, so many distance, we could certainly try to come up with a standard if you feel more comfortable with that. But really, what we want to do, a lot of cities are going away from streetlights. They're going to what they call the dark sky communities, where they try to limit the amount of light pollution. Really where we want the light is at intersections where individuals or cars, there could be essentially conflicts with individuals traveling in the evening. So
Yeah, a good example of a long distance is on a cul-de-sac, the longest we allow is a 650-foot cul-de-sac. It goes in there, and usually on one like that, we require a half-block street light. So, a lot of times our blocks are closer because we're Tremonton, for one thing. And so what we have, 300-foot blocks. And so a lot of times those street lights get about every 300 feet when you have a block intersection.
Okay.
Any further discussion?
And this is the subdivision that's where the new streets and everything are going in.
yeah, Lindsay, we scroll to the plat at the very
By J.
end.
Salveson.
Yeah.
That ties into, is that where
Yeah.
the bank, or not the bank,
That's Salvis and something. You know where you're at, don't
Yeah.
you?
Okay. I think he's finishing that road all the way through, isn't he?
He's doing some of that work prior to, because it only makes sense to continue with the utilities instead of stopping and having to start again.
But he's not gonna
He's not,
asphalt
it
all
won't
that.
have it paved
Okay.
unless, there's a good chance he might come in and add that additional phase 8 on there.
Okay, well, I make a motion that we approve this plat then.
Motion made by Brett,
I'll second it.
seconded by Lyle. Roll call again.
Rick, I.
Brett, aye.
Lyle Vance, aye.
You need to,
Irish ball
I'll
back.
let you make a motion.
Thank you. Calendar items, do we have any calendar items?
I think the only item is the Utah League of Cities and Towns conference that you had, and then we had the training today. So, and you are all signed up and registered, so.
We go down there Wednesday night or Thursday night, I can't remember. Wednesday night?
Isn't it Wednesday night?
Yeah, let
It's
us know what night
22nd.
you've got it,
To the 24th.
because I'll be getting in late.
Have they got the agenda online? They should, huh?
22nd is a Wednesday. 22nd, 23rd, 24th, so Wednesday through Friday.
And the Wednesday night, we'll be going to dinner with Brigham City,
Okay,
okay?
their turn.
The first night we get down there. Okay, anything else on the calendar that we need to talk? Past assignments, anything we need to do?
Lindsay, do you have the you recall from minutes?
It was one for you, Sean.
Sometimes, we get the minutes after I put the agenda out, so sometimes
I'll follow up on billboards.
oh yeah, so things are progressing. I had some conversations with the chamber and YESCO and also the county. So I'm coordinating the final details of the signed copy, which I'll email you as well. And I'm getting the cost estimates as well from YESCO. And still trying to figure out, if we have a formal easement on the land. So I probably turned to the title company. We searched to get our records and didn't find anything. So.
Okay. City manager reports. Sean?
Actually, oh yeah, can we go to number 9? And that's what I had contemplated relative to continuing the discussion about the fire department.
Okay, that's good.
So, Lyle asked the question about, the plan that we put together, and I showed those bars, that was the pay range, and essentially what I did is, in calculating the fire chief's salary and the captain's, I put it at the lowest of that range. So the staffing plan that's being proposed, that equals that 1.3 million, essentially covers, it's a 3-man crew that works around the clock. Obviously, there's 6 firefighters and 3 captains that comprise that crew. And then, the fire chief would work probably more 9 to 5 hours and, call outs and emergencies, but more as an administrative position. So if you want something modeled, less than that, then we could certainly, do that. And have like daytime coverage only or nighttime coverage or something like that, and we can see what the cost would be. But that's what the proposal is, and that's what that proposal translated into dollars.
So there's 124, is that benefits, wages, everything?
That's the total compensation value, which includes all of what you said.
So 270,000, 250,000 is what they made last year, or that we put into reserve?
Well, that's according to the state's definition of the cost reporting. So they modified it for their report, and that's what it came out what they would be looking for. It's not how it was accounted for at Tremonton. So that's what they're saying, that you're not following their rule of the 10% rule.
So
So according to their definitions of income and expenses directly related to ambulance services.
So is that played into these equations? Because
Well-
we're making a lot of money.
Yeah, but we're not paying it for fire, and so,
You're not paying it for ambulance service. What the state is saying is you're making money, you're not using it to pay for ambulance costs.
exclusively.
Yeah. You can have crossover costs allocated, that's the joint fire and EMS working together, that's allowed. But there's-
So how is that problem being resolved with this then?
Because you're allocating, you'll be
Would you
creating
come
more
up?
cost.
By a speaker, if you can talk, please.
You're allocating more cost to the ambulance fund or ambulance service. So the revenue you're generating from ambulance service is now going to pay for ambulance labor or ambulance costs. So you'd be actually using it for direct costs.
Okay, and that was equated into these wages, correct?
Well, we didn't necessarily net out. We just looked essentially at, because there's a shortfall, we essentially have the same, we have revenue now, and we are making more money. The fund is adding to fund balance, every year. I can't remember exactly what it was. It showed you the net, or what the total fund balance was. But, so we are going to incur the costs, and greater costs. Fire has never been funded from governmental revenue. It's always been funded, I should say, hasn't been completely funded from governmental revenue. It's been funded through the EMS. So I just looked at, this is what we have now. This is essentially with the staffing, that's needed. What does that cost? And to answer your question more specifically, I'm sorry, haven't been as specific as I should be. I didn't necessarily net out. I think there is some, we could probably drop it down by 100,000, maybe 200,000. So maybe we're at 1 million, but for discussion purposes, I just looked at, what are the new costs that we'd be adding to public safety and presented those numbers without netting out. Like I said, the EM emergency manager, there's 20,000, that we could essentially use towards this. And there's some additional savings that we could probably muster up.
Would the emergency manager be covered by one of these jobs?
So I would envision that the fire chief would take on that role.
Mm-hmm.
Now, did we have an emergency manager before, which was
It was Jim Hess.
Jim Hess, and was he being paid?
Yes, about 20,000 was
Okay.
essentially.
Well, these are all these things that have got to be thrown in and thrown on a balance sheet so that we can see them, because then that's going to start,
Yeah.
whittling it down a little bit, and then I'd really like to know what that true number is that we need to come up with, and then let's find a way to get the funding. As far as I'm concerned, the fire and police need to know that we want to make this work. We just want to find the funding without causing a lot of heartache to the public, and so,
Yeah.
yeah. So we're on board, it's just we need to find the funding, in my opinion.
Well, really, like I said, I think you could say maybe 200,000. So now you're down to 1.1 that you need to come up with, and we could adjust what that shows. But I think it ranges generally between like 60 and 80% property tax increase. Based upon generating $1 million to get this type of coverage. There's a little bit that we could take out, like the part-time firefighters, EMS. I still think we'll need a portion, have a little bit in budgeted for that, because as I mentioned, these will be full-time employees, that would have sick leave and vacation time. And so we'd need some coverage there. Which
I still go back to what I originally said. We need to see entry level into this thing. We need to see a mid, and then this is the whole gamma right here. This is what Christmas would be if we could put it together. There's another area where you just keep skirting over, and it's huge because the number of calls that we did in 2019 were 572, of which 410 were in Tremonton. So that means 162 of those calls were done outside of Tremonton. That's 28%. So you figure 28% times that 11 at 1.1 million. That's another $328,000 that we're just expecting Tremonton City to choke it up out of property taxes and pay for everybody else's safety. That's huge.
I think that's why that law was trying to get
The one at the table?
the one they tabled. That's the purpose behind that movement, was exactly.
So why did they table it?
They just didn't feel like they had enough data to make it work quickly. It came fast.
But couldn't contracts
So-
be established that could help make up that revenue?
Yeah, even now, you can still do it, but it's up to the municipal to decide they
Right.
will or won't. It's not an essential service, so they can choose. This law would take that and say you will make it an essential service.
Yet if there's a call, we have to go on.
You, right now, because you hold the licenses, you're obligated. You chose to get the licenses,
So we're obligated for this area, period.
for your licensed geographic boundaries that you've selected.
Can you restrict, could we contract our boundaries?
No, because the state requires that every inch of the state of Utah will be covered by an ambulance service, and if it's not covered, they'll mandate the nearest service to do
So
it.
would it still be
So
covered?
would the state do funding then to help that?
They don't.
That's nice of them.
Mayor,
Connie?
in my viewpoint, for me, and I value the comments that have been made already, but for me, the most important thing for me at this point is two things. First of all, I need buy-in from those individuals that are offering that service in our community. They need to buy in. They need to sell this. In my opinion, it's what they do well. Everyone knows who they are. When I look at Steve Battis, I know what he does for me. If Steve Battis is okay with it, and he feels like it's the best thing in Tremonton, that's really valuable to me. Okay? So I think that how does this sell? The people that are involved in offering us safety in our community, they're the ones that are gonna sell it. We all want to be safe, and think safety has to be number one in Tremonton. Safety has to be number one. So we have to spend money to make it a safe community, and it's growing. Chief Furtig, another example. Where does he stand? He's gonna communicate with his neighbor. I'm gonna go up to him and say, tell me how you feel about it. He's gonna sell it to me. We're gonna do our part, but I think that all of those men right back there, they've gotta sell this program, in my opinion, to the community. And why they feel like it's important, because they're doing it. So it's their story. And I haven't heard their story. I mean, I know they have a story to tell. They can tell me a story. I know a story just about my street recently. But they're the ones that are going to sell this to our community, because our community values their opinions and understands just enough that they're the ones that are going to carry it, in my opinion.
I think, and my impression is that's why I was invited to come, is because they want to find out what they need to do.
Yep.
And here we are.
Yep.
So.
And we've captured some of their opinions, and you're right. There's only 10 that we haven't heard from, but those 10 are valuable to me. You know, these say, not sure. These say, yep, I'm on board. Then we have age that we're dealing with here, of those that have been protecting us for most of their lives, have been now in their 50s and 60s, and yet we have these younger ones that we hope, that we know are going to have that same fever, that same passion towards protecting our community as the older ones are. But I value their opinions, and I want to know how they feel, and I want to know if there's a commitment to this program that what we're proposing, are they committed to it? Can they sell it to their next door neighbor? And to me, that's
Great.
where we go.
Mr. Mayor, as I started the process, we've been talking about this over multiple budget years. On occasions, it's been on our watch list. Is the fire department able to keep up? And so, we started this process and, went to the fire department and had some great conversations and did the survey, which, we didn't expect to do. That was just a suggestion that came up. I think Lyle Vance was at that meeting, and maybe you were as well, Roger, which I thought was a great way to try to capture, what the sentiment was. And two things that were really striking to me from that survey was, one is essentially 80% said that they felt like the current staffing plan wasn't keeping up with the call demand. And then the other one is there things that we can do internally, because everyone wants that. That's the ideal scenario, is essentially to continue as we are, because it provided a great service, at a low cost. I mean, that's ideally what we'd like. And again, I think it was 79% said that, they're either giving everything they can and more, they're giving all they can, or they would like to give more and they can't. And so, I thought those two sentiments were really telling. We did try to figure out, are there things internally that we can do? One of the suggestions that came up was, well, let's do, right now they sign up for, if I'm telling this right correctly or wrong, Chief, they essentially sign up for night coverage. I think they're essentially required to sign up 4 nights out of a month, and they sign up. So the suggestion was, well, let's sign up for day coverage, and let's see if we can essentially, specifically have individuals that will commit to doing it during the day. And there was mixed reaction. Some knew their schedule, knew they couldn't, but we put that as an option and essentially made that available. And we never could get enough people to sign up so that we did have coverage during the day. So we were going along through this process trying to think of, what are the issues? Are there ways that we can solve this, internally without changing the staffing plan? And as the conversation evolved, my sense is we're sort of at this, crossroads that does require a change. And you can certainly visit with the firefighters, and we can invite the firefighters to come and have a conversation there, and there's gonna be mixed, mixed response. That's essentially, what I got, but those were some of the takeaways that stuck with me. And ultimately, it's up to you as a city council to make sure that we have, public safety covered. If you gave us a number and felt like, this is the percentage that I think we can support, then we would just go back and sort of craft, a public safety plan that sort of met that. But I do think, based upon the numbers and statistics we talked about as far as having multiple calls during, at a time, simultaneous calls to, calls per day, I feel like this plan and this model essentially would provide a basic level of service, would still need our current staffing that we have to augment and help us. And I don't see us losing calls, I only see us increasing calls. So I, based upon all these conversations, I think the plan that's presented is a reasonable plan. Unfortunately, it comes with a big price tag, and it's what other communities are having to wrestle with right now too. We're not isolated, and that's one of the slides I wanted to show you, was some of these other communities have had to go through this similar process and increase property tax to pay for the public safety.
I can sympathize with Lyle and his concerns. Is there some way that we can do it instead of full bore right now? Can we do it gradually over the next period of time?
I think if we were going to do that, we could reduce the part-time firefighter, and I could come back with essentially, trying to really drill down the budget and see where the savings would be, and essentially come up with a more specific, budget, and we could look at that. But I just wanted to make sure before we went through and did that exercise that we were sort of going in the right direction. If you're not going to essentially increase property tax, or there's only a certain percentage that you're willing to support, then it'd be good to know what that number is, and we can try to make the most of it. But we do believe, or I think we would need to anticipate that in the near future we'd probably be having this conversation again about staffing levels and keeping up with call volumes.
What do you think, guys?
I know
I
how
think
much, I was gonna say, I just know how much my property tax went up this year. And to come back and hit people, especially that live around me, because I know they're on fixed incomes and everything. But I know it's important, and I know what these guys do, because I see them. And they do a very excellent job, but they are understaffed. I can see that from the numbers, so it's just trying to figure out how we can get them held and still keep everything down. And I know that's just a tough thing right now.
How many of these calls are for the fixed income people?
A
The
lot.
elderly?
A lot.
And is it your safety and I shouldn't be saying this, but your safety and your family's safety worth 75 cents to $1 a day?
Absolutely. I guess,
I mean, I know at the end of the year, it's $275 or plus dollars.
so where does safety fit? And I would say safety has to be at the very top of our priority list, safety, right up here. So if it is, then we go to the citizens and we say, safety is right up here. Who disagrees? There won't be anybody, because once it becomes real and it's you and your property or your child or whoever it is, it's you, then you have to pay something, because Tremonton's growing. It's not little anymore. Everyone look around, and safety's number one, Tremonton City Council, if that's the truth. And so we're gonna have to invest into our community that way. But again, I'm gonna go back to, I need that buy-in. And you've answered a lot of that, but there has to be buy-in from those that are offering that safety. Do you have that passion? Do you have that fever? Are you on board? Can you help us to promote this in our community so that it's top priority? We gotta have that.
We have
just as a comment, you have mixed, like I said, it's a new concept.
Yeah, I know.
None of us thought it was to this extreme, but if you sit and look at the call volume and just in the last few days calls, we've struggled to get our calls covered. We're not manning them at the strength we used to. We are making phone calls to make sure if the alarm goes off again, you have to come. I mean, we rely on city employees, which I know Paul has jobs for his guys to do besides coming to emergency. So we're depending on a lot of factors to cover our department right now. We have, if you look, we have 30 members. 15 of them made the majority of the calls. And I mean, you look at the different things, we have 1,500 calls. We had some that made 10 calls. We had some that only made 2 calls in the whole year. So you're definitely not going to get a true, well, let's jump on board with this new program, because I won't even get the 2 calls, because the ones that are making the top calls are going to snag up all them extra calls. So I mean, there's naturally different points of view. Our top call getter last year, both put in time and calls, screwed up his rotator cuff. He's out for 6 months. So I mean, that shifted the load totally to other people. We have 2 on disability right now. And I mean, like
Because you're aging.
yeah, 20. I mean, this year I've been on 40 years in October. We used to make 300 calls a year. Now we're at 1,500. So I mean, it's just more demanding, and that's what I said. The important thing to me in that survey is 80% or higher said they're doing all they can. Everybody would like to do more, but we can't. I mean, there's just people can't do any more. They have a lot of other things going on in life. I mean, I look at my life back then. My kids, I could coach, I could go to all their dance reviews, I could do everything because there was 300 calls. The chances of me getting paged out of a dance review at the high school was 0. I don't know that I ever missed a dance review of my kids, but now the chances of you going to a dance review and not getting paged out is pretty slim to none. And if you miss those opportunities in life, you can't make those things up. So it's just life is busier, and our call volumes gets busier. And statistics show that because we're all baby boomers, they figure the call volume is going to go up 20% a year. Well, you have to have somebody that can make up 20% more calls. So.
You behind us, Steve?
Well, this is way higher, but than I expected. I wasn't to the meetings. I mean, when they first decided to do this, I figured we definitely need daytime help. I mean, there's 9 of us really. If you look at the survey, 9, and there's really less than 9 of us in town on most daytime. But 9 said we were around. But, you know, when I discussed that with everybody, they said, well, it's just as bad at night. And I see it too. We struggle getting people at night. So it was some of our firemen that suggested the 3 men, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. His initial thing was like 2 and 7, but a lot of the fire department figure they have to have, they need to guarantee 1 ambulance coverage. And I mean, you can talk to, some of these younger guys, they're the ones that's got to take the slack.
Absolutely.
I mean, most of us, there's a bunch of us that's going to be done in 5 to 10 years. And that's why I say we're struggling already. Whether we need to go to this extent right off, we don't know. But if we don't and we need to, then what are we going to do?
The liability and the risk, is it worth it?
To me, it isn't. I've been in this business forever to save lives and to save property. I mean, we've discussed this EMS side for all the time, but we've really never addressed the fire side. Tremonton's got an ISO rating of 3. We've worked hard in my time as chief and all of us to have an ISO rating of 3. Every homeowner in this city benefits from that 3. That's one of the lowest ISO ratings in the nation. There's very few places in the whole nation that are 3 or less.
But in order to keep that,
You have to man trucks. We had a fire here in our city limits the other day, and we only had 3 people on the truck. ISO, when they come and audit us, they aren't gonna care if it was a chicken coop or not. It was a structure fire in Tremont city limits, and we had 3 people on the truck, which does not meet the minimum requirements. So, I mean, just what we save in fire insurance alone by manning our trucks is gonna pay the 75 cents a day.
When you talked about liability, and Chief Battis brought up that the guys want the 3 guys on the ambulance. In today's society, everybody loves to sue somebody else. Us as firemen don't feel comfortable sometimes on these transfers with a single female or an underage female in the back by ourselves. Because it's he said, she said, and we're gonna lose every time.
Put a camera.
There's a huge liability
Put a
there.
camera.
And it comes back on you guys. Ultimately, like that scares me. I'm a full-time firefighter. That's how I pay for my family. That's how I raise my family. Chief Bass does the same thing. If something happens to me while I'm here at Tremonton and they sue me, I lose my license, I have no way to provide for my family. You know, knock on wood, that hasn't happened to us yet. We've got a lot of good guys, but you never know in today's society. And that was one of the big concerns of the fire department, of going with 3 people manning that full ambulance. So you always have 2 people in the back.
so where are you on this issue?
This needs to happen. I'm with Chief Battis. This was a little more than we all eventually, and when we first started talking about this, we didn't think maybe, but Brian brought up a good point of let's just do it, be done. And it's like you said, going to the citizens and saying, oh, we need this amount of money this year, and then you're gonna do it again to them next year when we're not manning them, because we only hired half as many people as we need. I'm 100% behind hiring people. I think we need it. You're running your volunteers into the ground.
So what would you say to your neighbor that's gonna have a hard time with this much? What would you say to your neighbor?
Just like he said, what do you want to happen when you call 911? I had to call my wife called 911 2 years ago and they did CPR on my 8-year-old boy. Chief Battis went to the house. Luckily we saved him. But my wife says, what took so long? Until you're in that situation, you don't understand the feelings that you have. And those guys were fast. I called Chief Westergaard because I was on shift after work and says, are you going to that call? He says, yeah, I'm getting an ambulance. He says, that's my house, hurry. My wife said it, everybody, I mean, here or there, it all ended well, but that was, our thing is what took so long?
So
None of us want that.
$258 to you,
You can't put a
drop
price
in the
on
bucket,
life.
right?
You cannot. Like you said, public safety is, you guys have to provide that as a city. I'm a city councilman now too, I understand that. But, and it's nobody's fault that you're running 1,500 calls a year now. That's just the nature of the beast in your town growing. It's something that we've got to combat, and we've been trying to combat it. Chief Battis has been doing a great job of trying to keep everybody motivated to do it. And we are, if you want to look at it as far as drop calls, but we've covered them per se. But last summer we had a fire call, it took 30 minutes to get on scene. That's not good. Everybody's busy. We can all make excuses. I make excuses. I live in Garden City now. I don't make near as many. I was one of the top 5 guys when I lived here. I loved it. I still love it, but just sheer nature of where I live now, I don't make as many calls. That's just the fact of life. But I enjoy doing this. I enjoy helping the community, you know. But yeah, it comes to a point where we just can't cover all of them. That, you know, you look at the man hours alone, you think man, that's a lot of money we're paying out, look at all those hours we're paying, but if you sat back and looked at every single thing that happens in this community that the fire department does, that's a lot of hours too. You go actual man hours, not just calls, because yeah, 1,500 calls is a lot. You think about that, on a transfer to Salt Lake in traffic, that's 4 hours. That's 3 times 4 is 12 hours for every one of those calls that go to Salt Lake. That's a lot
We
of
need to have a
hours.
proponent that can look at it from.
It's
different
tough,
angles.
but
Just going-
me personally, I'm behind hiring guys to help out.
Well, and two, we've got these neighboring communities that we're servicing, right?
Yeah.
And so they need to be part of the conversation too, because safety has to be I would say safety's number one. If you were to go to those cities, safety's number one with them too.
If you're a city, it needs to be.
So then we just hook up. We join together, and that's a good thing for us to do anyway. To unite those different communities around us and see if they will go in and be a part of it, even though legally, but, right?
Right now,
Legally, that's the way it is. We can't necessarily, but, hey, we're offering this service. Can you help us? Can you join us? We're offering this service.
it
Are
might-
you my neighbor?
It might help when the law does become a law, when the bill does turn into a law. You know, if you're ahead of the curve, already having those discussions
Right.
and
So
dialoguing
invite
just
those
like
community
this.
leaders in.
See, like Corinne, just for example, Corinne City's looking at hiring 2 full-time people right now. And they've gone to, I mean, the county isn't gonna buy in until it becomes a law. They've been fighting with Boxer County to say, you pay your share, and it's not required. They pay our fire side, but from what I've heard from Corinne's chief, is they said they're not gonna pay any fee for the medical side until they have to, so. You're gonna get kickback, but, I mean, but see, we've said that for years and years. A lot of our calls are state highways or Fox River County. Well, they get it for free. So, but I don't know what you do. I mean, like you say, until it's a law.
But at the same time, Tremont City's going out there and they're hauling them in that ambulance and we get the revenue from it.
How about if we come up with a plan, we have this grandiose plan, how about if we come up and give us some choices, something to think about, okay? Talk a lesser plan, okay? Come in a little gradual. This is perhaps our goal in a couple of years, whenever, a period of time, okay? But we need to move in it perhaps a little bit more gradually, but we need to solve the problem. But could we come up with another plan, a lesser plan, to be, at least something else to think about?
Yeah, I could put numbers to like daytime coverage only, if you would like to see that. And try to be a little bit more specific on cost savings and where we could, what we could save and.
Would you guys be all willing to do that?
Distribution of expense. But, it'd be helpful if you would, do you want to just see like a daytime coverage proposal?
Sure.
Or is there certain,
We
numbers
need to
you
have
like?
somebody that's a proponent on being economical versus doing the whole thing all at once. We need to have somebody who wants to figure out how to get into it gradually rather than everything right now.
Okay, we can certainly provide you.
I'm still stuck on how we're expected to go out with each community and negotiate with them on them participating. That's what's expected of a city to
Well,
do.
if the law would have been passed, it would have been, you could deny providing service to them.
And that's been tabled.
That's been tabled, but that was what the caveat was. If they don't work with you, then you're not obligated.
So you have a finite area in Tremonton, okay? Everybody's talking about safety, and I'm on board with that kind of stuff too, but you have a finite area. And these people that happen to have real estate in this area shoulder the whole burden for the whole area, okay? It's not right. It's just not right.
I think we need to talk to Scott Sandel and some other people.
You get anybody who's a landowner, and you're gonna have a problem going on here. And you keep talking $238 per house, but if you have a commercial property, you're getting slammed on this thing. So when I see my money going out, helping other situations, when they have no inkling to participate in this thing, why should they have to bear the burden?
Or build a business in a different city, so you don't have to bear the burden.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll go out of town.
But it's like Chief Bada says, our ISO rating is the best there is.
Absolutely.
All the businesses, the big businesses in Corinne, I've talked to 2 of the guys, they're big proponents of hiring somebody to have them in there. They're glad to pay the tax. I mean, there are benefits to it. Yeah, it's a cost, no doubt. We all understand if there was no cost to this, we would have done it a long time ago. You know,
See, if you look, and it was on, I sent it to Sean, is Channel 2 News had, like there is a Sam Pete, I think it's Sam Pete, it's down by, isn't it, by Flaming Gorge, Dutch John area.
But that's Daggett County.
Daggett, see, that's the same thing happened with them, it just overwhelmed them. That whole county has no EMS. That's who is the proponent of this deal of making the counties pay up, because if you get hurt in that county, it's like Garfield, an hour response, because it just got to the point they can't.
So what direction do we want to give Sean? What information do you want? We need another choice, something else to look at. Maybe at least daytime firefighters, so start with that and go from there. At least it's someplace to
Yeah.
begin.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'd like to see a strategy. In 5 years from now, this is where we want to be. This is the strategy to get there. And, and it may be, and then we can kind of plan from there.
If you start incrementally raising the taxes versus just doing it, just slamming it.
I'm not saying that tax, I'd just like to see a plan, because can we go this now?
I think we need some choices, so you guys can make a decision.
What do you mean, can we go this now? Can we afford this now, is
Yeah.
what you're saying, without
Yeah.
raising taxes?
And
Yeah, we can. You're raising taxes to do this.
So what can we do without raising taxes?
Not much, I don't think. I mean, I could try to figure that out, but it's not gonna get us, as far as providing services at an elevated level, it's not gonna achieve anything that I could foresee.
And this doesn't include the police, does it?
No, the 1.3 does. Yeah, the 1.3 would. See, that's showing 1.174, but if you jump to the last slide, you'll see the 1.3 is what I put in, which includes, kind of models what that property tax increase would look like.
Okay.
Here's the catch-22 with if you don't do anything or don't make a change with that cost audit. I'm not speaking for the Bureau or EMS or Department of Health, but why they put that law in is you'll match the cost into the revenue, so that revenue is not subsidizing non-ambulance service. So they'll have you, how will you reduce your revenue to match your cost structure? That's thinking the opposite. You would lose revenue some way to get down to that cost structure, to get to that law. So you'd have to reduce your billable rate to do it, based on your current cost structure you have right now. So that would take away revenue from the city.
Then we need to see how that functions, how that fits into the deal.
Yeah.
so what direction do you want to move?
I think
Connie?
I honestly think we have to make safety number one in the community. And I think we have to speak, we have to make it has to be, this is where we're at. We're no longer small Tremonton. We need to be safe. How safe we want to be is going to cost us. Do we want to invest in it? I say yes.
So when we have a truth and taxation meeting, that means the public's invited.
That's
Okay?
true.
So that will give them a time to come in and comment.
That's
But we
true.
have to have some ideas for them.
Well, and that's what I say. Those that provide the safety to our community need to be the spokesperson. They need to be the ones that sell it, in my opinion. They're the ones with the stories. The rest of us may not know how it really is, but they know what it really is, what the facts are, and they're the ones that are gonna sell it. But I think we've gotta do it. And we can do it in increments, sure, and I get it. But there just isn't there isn't an amount that you can. This gentleman, $258, he would have paid millions if he would have, so I say that we have to go forward. We have to find out what the community thinks, if they're willing to invest in their safety or not. I say we do, but.
Where do you wanna go, council?
I would pay it in my home, and I could convince my whole neighborhood we need to do it. I could convince every single person on my street. Really? Are you serious? Even though they may be on fixed incomes, in my neighborhood are older people that are gonna need that service probably more, but I could convince them, I think I could convince them myself that this is a priority.
So what's your direction, Connie?
When we started out,
Just to
we
do it.
actually, Tremont City got the ambulance service for free. But there again, laws and different things made it so you could not.
Well, I think we need to go into it. So I agree, Lyle. I think we need to look at, let's get going down that road, and let's do what we can to make it as inexpensive as we can, and be wise as we make these decisions, but to say, no, we're just gonna use what we have, and if we get into big trouble, then we'll just, oh well. I don't think we can do it.
No, I think we're all on board about doing something different,
Yeah,
but doing it all at once, no way.
yeah.
Why?
And that's okay.
Wow, how come?
Does everybody have a right to sit here and talk? Listen, are you on Garland Cities? Which city council are you on now?
Garland,
So what's Garland gonna do to step up to the plate to help out with this?
nothing.
Okay,
So
there you go.
Yeah,
That's why I am the
yeah,
way I
that's
am.
just-
I mean, you don't live here, you're not gonna pay one dime, and I'm gonna have to take an answer to everybody that walks into me and explain to them why we raise their taxes so we can take care of Garland. That's the problem. So, when you're looking for people to sell,
Yeah.
nobody's gonna sell us, Connie. We're gonna be sitting up here
But are you gonna
with
sell
our butts
it?
in the sling, having
Yeah.
to explain
Yeah.
to the constituents
Yeah.
why we raise their
I
taxes.
get that. I
You
get
have to
that.
provide that public service.
We do, but we can do it a little bit at a time rather than the whole thing all at once.
Are you gonna keep your staffing doing it that way?
We gotta look at different options.
That's what we're gonna do, is we'll look at some different options, we'll come up with
I agree
some
with you.
choices. Okay, this might be the ultimate thing we have to do, but we'll go step by step. We're gonna look at it first of all, come up with some choices that we can look at, okay? And then we can talk about it some more. And in real life, I would really like to have a meeting with the fire department guys. Have them come to city council or have a special meeting that we can talk with those guys. Because I value their opinion a lot,
I do too.
okay? Is that possible to do?
So like I said, I mean, just like tonight, they knew, but we have guys on cruises, that's what we say, we are not, must not be available, or they would be here, I'm sure.
Well, then we gotta make it a time that we can talk to them, otherwise, the council will make a decision without any damn input from the fire department, okay?
I never got noticed by anybody but this gentleman.
So
sitting next
what we
me
need
about
to,
this
what we
meeting,
need to
so I don't
do
know.
is get a meeting set up that we can talk with those guys and get their feeling, what they're thinking. And then we'll get some information from Sean, and then the council will have to make some decisions. Does that sound reasonable?
And you know what, Mayor? I think that those neighboring cities that we're servicing, I think we've got to have some representation. We've got to have them come in and tell us. I think we need to lock arms with those communities. It's time. And they all need to be a part of this. They all need to be invited to be a part of safety. And I just think it's time for us to do it. Freebie enough. It's time for you to come in and let's sit down together. We're nice people, Tremonton City Council, the people of Tremonton. I value the people of Garland. It's time to all come together and let's put this together. So bring somebody from Howell, bring somebody from these communities that we're servicing and say, okay, we want to do this in a great way, but we need you to help us. And it's not law, but what are you willing to do? I don't know, that's just me. We got to get some ownership in the project.
It's a good goal.
And it doesn't hurt us a bit to reach out and try to get a hold of that hand of that community, of that leader in that community, whether it be Garland or whatever. It doesn't do us a bit of harm to reach out and say, we're inviting you in. It's probably good for us to do it.
We have had significantly less major things that we've asked the communities to come and participate in, and they don't give squat. So maybe this in real life, we've had that experience. I hope it changes. This is a big deal.
All we can do is
Okay?
invite.
But we can invite them if they want to come and participate, that's fine. But in my limited experience over the last 10 years, they don't care. Because we're paying for it and they're not going to do anything. And that's just how it is.
It's sad.
It is a sad deal, but that's how life is. So let's move forward on this. Let's get some options. And could we possibly come up and see if we can get some more fire department guys to come to a damn meeting?
Just come on Thursday night when they're here.
Yeah, well,
Come and
you're
have a-
always invited to come on Thursday night. You're gonna get the most input on.
Well, we can come on a Thursday night, but we gotta get the
Thursday
council to
nights.
come on a Thursday night, so the council can hear what they have to say.
So, in the first Thursday of every month is the best time to come,
Okay,
because that's when I have the most amount of people, but.
So, excuse me. Steve, I was to the first meeting when this thing was put together, and the questionnaire and that type of stuff I thought was essential and that type of stuff. Now that we're to this point in the game, I want to come back and hear what the fire department has to say. Your input's huge, but there's a pecking order that's involved with the fire department. And I get concerned about going to the fire department because I don't know if people can really be forthright with their thoughts. So see, I got some heads nodding, so.
So how else can you do it though?
We're to a point where we've listened to them, we've heard what they want to do, we know what we should be doing. The question is, what can we afford to do?
Okay.
And we can go through this thing that we can spend all the money in the world and do everything we want to do, but I'm telling you what, the next guy coming in here wants these city repaired and that type of stuff. We still have a budget that we have to figure out how to function within. And everybody may think that money comes from nowhere, but 300 grand we're subsidizing the community with outside of Tremonton, and something's got to be fixed. I don't know how to fix it.
How long do you think that this bill to pass next year, or it could take 3 or 4 years? What?
They want to bring it back next year. There's a lot of support from it, from cities and towns that were supporting it. In your situation, where they're the provider for large area where no one else is helping, there's a lot of support. There was support from, who's the insurance?
The trust?
Trust. The trust was supportive of it because of the liability reduction. There was just enough discord that it tabled it so they could get more information.
Wow.
Let's give it a month or two, and Sean will come up with some more information for it, and we'll talk about it again. Does that sound reasonable?
Yeah.
Sure.
If we can think of some more direction to give.
Yes,
Sean about it.
and we'll work on the direction.
I would love to gather, I'd
Okay.
just like to gather some buy-in.
So, all
Even if
right,
you only get half the cities, even if you only get.
okay. We exhausted this.
The only thing I was gonna say is, if this was a plan that you thought was too much, tell us the plan. Give it to Sean, just so we can look at it, what you guys were thinking.
Your
I know
input's
you made that
invaluable.
comment.
Absolutely.
You made that comment. So, and and I'm grateful that we have this, because that gives us an idea, but if you had something else that you thought would work, let's see what that's gonna be. How's that?
Good. All right. That's, are we good enough? We have some direction here. Council reports. Or Sean, did you have anything else?
You know, there was one other item on the work
Oh,
session, but I
yeah.
think in the interest of time, maybe we can just, and it's not critical. we
We'll
can
do it
just,
next time.
Yeah, carry it over.
Okay.
All right. Council reports. Tony?
The only thing I have is that in May, at the end of May, they're having on the 29th, they're having the summer reading party. I don't know if it's possible. It's on the 29th of May, starts at 5 o'clock, goes till 7, the hot dogs, we're kind of promoting education and our library on that night. So the comment was, when they send out the water bill, is there a way that it can be put on, I don't know, can it be put on the water bill? Can it? Do you want me to give you details later?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
because I think that would be good to promote it.
Okay. Yeah, we'll do that.
That's all I have.
Bob?
I don't have anything to report. I just want to reiterate that the fire department and the police department, you guys are important. We're gonna be doing something. We just gotta figure out what's best and most economical.
And it came up, we've got to work for what's best for the city, what's best for the citizens. We have to get that balance, and that's why you guys are paid the big bucks, is to come up with
But
that.
we're in support of you guys, 100%. We're gonna figure this thing out. Something's gonna happen.
Yep. Good. Thank you, Lyle. Brett?
Ditto.
I agree.
Okay. I have nothing else.
Mr. Mayor, there's one other
Sean?
thing I just wanted to make you aware of. So the RDA owns a couple houses, 3 houses back on Main Street. And as you know, ultimately those houses will be turned back over for development. This is on Tremonton Center. It's the old Chavez homes that the RDA owns. And so here in the near future, what's being proposed is that the fire department can use those homes as training, burn them down, and then they'd be cleared. And so I just wanted to make you aware of that in case you had any concerns or questions about it. And Chief Battis, is that essentially, do you have a timeline, Chief?
Well, they said they were totally vacant. This week they have got the power disconnected, all 3 of them, but
Right in front of the canal.
the gas has to be disconnected from all 3 of them. Rupp want it done as fast as I can do it, but I guess Kaitner said, Mike, is that you guys, he told you guys he'd have them gone by April. I mean, we're looking at more. I'd like to be a little later in April because we're doing firefighter 1, firefighter 2 training. I'd like to use the facilities for training for the guys first. But they probably will be gone by May 1st.
We won't have smoke from them for 3 months, will we?
Well, not 3 months.
That's important.
They're all brick structures.
That's key.
I mean, Rups are, like I said, Rups want to stay busy. The way he said, they'll be right over there cleaning them up as soon as they're gone. He's pushing, he wants to keep his guys busy, I think.
Really good point.
And,
Because you got a lot of
excuse me, why it's
businesses
muddy,
there,
so.
you could destroy a lot of
but-
property.
They're gonna be pushing me to get rid of them, but I wanna get some training out of them before we get rid of them.
Why do,
We'll probably burn all 3 of them at one time.
why burn them? I mean, do we really save that much and not just have them hauled out of there?
I think
Could they go bulldoze
I
them
think
and-
it is quite substantial amount of money. I don't know, if we get a lot of people that prefer it, and I mean, now, I don't know if there's, when they haul wood, where they haul it.
They can't bring processed wood to the wood pile.
You just got a lot of businesses around there that we get a lot of smoke going and we could cause a lot of damage.
So they're, I don't know what was said to them about it, but contacted us about getting rid of them. Is, like they said, there's the cities, and they'll be turned over to the, I guess, to someone when they're done.
So in order for us to go forward, we have to have some smoke.
Yeah.
In order
I mean,
for-
they'll be a clean burn. Well, they'll be burned cleaner than, I mean, you've seen the Furman or the Summers house, that they'll burn pretty clean because we'll get them hot. It's not nothing like the wood pile that has a lot of stuff to smolder, and they fought. I mean, 2 of them have basements. One's slab on grade, but they're all brick, so it'll pretty much be like a chimney and be gone, burn out what will burn, and then RUPS will come in and clean it up and haul it away.
Okay.
But I mean, natural, they'd have to haul it all. If they dispose of it right now, they probably have to take it to the landfill. It's so much a pound, and I don't know whose responsibility would be to pay for that cost. I don't know how the contract with RUPS is to clean it up.
The RDA is paying for it up to a certain amount, so we essentially, through a contract, the RDA agreed to pay, I want to say it's like $350,000, which included a variety of things, one of those being the removal of those structures.
Okay. Well, move on cautiously. We need one more motion, council.
Is it?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Motion made by Connie,
I'll second it.
seconded by Lyle, all in favor? Opposed? Thank you.
All right.
Stick your head in the sand.
Right?